Hey traders, Sam Shakespeare coming to you live. How's everyone doing today? The trades we've given you are all stages. There's a trend trade, then there's the reversal, then there's an intermediate L1, L7, which then the next trend trade, then the next reversal, then the L1, L7. Of course, the market doesn't work in clean cycles like that, but if it went in clean cycles to where it was solid uptrend, a solid downtrend, a solid uptrend, those are the order you would get the trades in. You would get trends, you would follow them by by reversals and extended reversals. You'll probably get those, and then you'll get L1, L7s followed by more trends. Now let's get into your master trade switches. These are the switches of the trade setups you have available. Okay, you have 5 setups. You got it, Anton. You've got a 5-minute trend, a 15-minute trend, a reversal trade, an extended reversal trade, and an L1, L7 trade, and I'll show you what that is. So these are really 5 of our best performing setups. The settings are all handled by us. We do change them periodically as the market conditions change. You know, we handle the settings behind the scenes on these, but we did give you a few settings that you could use, and I'm going to show you how to trade these setups, okay? Let's start with the 5-minute trend. Honestly, this is one of my favorite setups. The only thing you really need to work out is what you want your stop and target to be. Now these are going to be hard stops and hard targets. Think of it as emergency levels. Think of your stop as an emergency stop. Now let me just say this. One of the features of the VTA, by the way, I didn't quite mention, I should have mentioned it right up here, is it comes with a high impact news shutoff release. So when you get high impact news release, you will actually get an alert on your chart, and it'll tell you right here the news release, and it'll tell you, hey, non-farm payrolls US dollar at this time. It'll give you a countdown to the time of the news release, and you will not get alerts on any, if it's, say it's non-farm payroll, any dollar pair will give you the news release information, and it'll let you know that trading will resume. So you will not be able to get any alerts during those news times. A half hour before the news it kicks on, 15 minutes after the news it kicks off, and you're back in. Okay, and that just eliminates the volatility. But just know that if you see something like that come on, say euro dollar you'll know if non-farm's coming up, but say it's US retail sales, you weren't aware, and then all of a sudden boom, it pops up, and you have an open trade on a dollar pair, I would take that trade off in profit. All right, because news, as I saw, and a lot of us saw last night with the New Zealand news release, can jump your stop, and you guys already know this. I got a great example of a stop getting jumped on my trade last night. It happens. That was just a little side note on the news release. It's on there, but the stop and the target, consider an emergency stop, okay? Because it will find stop losses before that level. Usually, not always. I recommend you leave that at 30 and 51. This is not 300. I'm sorry, I didn't explain that to you guys. The guys in the pro already know this. You have to add an extra digit on the stop and the target. So if you want a 30 pip stop, you put 30 in here, that's going to give you a 3 pip stop. Don't do that, please. All right, put that extra digit. You got to do it. Did we have to do it here? We did it here too on the power of 20. I didn't mention that. You have to put, that's 20 pips, not 200 pips. That's 20 pips. You got to put that extra digit on there. Okay, but it allows you to put fraction. If you want to put 20.5, you can put 205. All right. So that's the stop loss and your target. You will see your trades will close out within that most of the time. If you see that your stop is getting hit at 30 too much for comfort, maybe tighten it up to 25, tighten it up to 20. You can experiment it with tightening it up with 10, because you'll see the trades that really work out good happen right away. They don't even go negative on you. If you only want to capture those, you're going to just be careful, because you're going to get some hits. Some trades do go minus 15 or 20 before working out. So that's going to be something you're going to want to work out on your demo account. I personally think you should always start this out on demo and try the default settings and see how they work for you. I wouldn't change anything until you decide it's not working or not. All right. Now I want to go over this part, because this is a special part that I like, the one-click entry and candle close section. This gives you the option. And if you're a more experienced trader, you can turn one-click entry to true, and it will ignore this 5 here. If you got it on true, that means when you get the alert, you watch the price action. It's going to enter as soon as you hit yes, I'll take the alert. Okay, this is what the alerts look like. This is a euro yen short, and you can hit yes or no. Now, if you have one click entry set to true, when you hit yes, the trade is going to enter immediately on your click, one click entry. So know what you're doing on that. Okay, don't do that unless you really feel comfortable, because it's set to false. What that means, if it's set to false, then we use what's called a dynamic entry. If you like the trade and you hit yes with the default setting, in other words, the one-click entry set to false, then the VTA will wait and get in at what it feels is the right time. So it's going to wait. In this case, it'll wait for a 5-minute candle close in your direction. So you may get a much better entry because the price may pull back down, or you may get a worse entry because 5 minutes from the signal is a lot of time. You can change this to a 1-minute candle. Honestly, I have seen the 1-minute candle closes work well. Just understand you're not getting as much confirmation. You'll usually get better entries, but you might get some losses when a 5-minute candle close would not have got a loss. So you can experiment with this. Just do 1 or 5 on the 5-minute trends. Don't do a 15. It's too much. It doesn't make sense. All right, so a 1 or a 5 you can do. Keep in mind also, and this is another way for those that are wondering performance-wise, if you, for example, well, let me just say this. If you have one-click entry set to false, there are times where the trade may not even enter. Say you take the trade long on a 5-minute trend, but it keeps dropping and keeps dropping and never gives that candle close. If it drops too far, the trade will negate the idea. So there's an extra layer of protection by using the dynamic entries. When I say using dynamic entries, I mean keeping this one-click entry set to false. Okay, so if it will prevent you from catching a falling knife, if that makes sense. So if you use dynamic entries, you'll never catch a falling knife. It doesn't mean you won't lose a trade, of course. It just means you won't catch a trade that is just falling straight down if it's long. Now, if you use one-click entry set to true, say you take a 5-minute trade long, and it does say, for example, keep going negative, and it stops you out, that was a trade that had you used dynamic entry, the VTA would have never entered. So that's on you, in a sense, if you understand what I'm saying. That's why it's for a more experienced trader to use the one-click entry, because you may be taking trades that the VTA would have never even entered. Just because you get an alert, that just means the preliminary conditions are all right. It means it's technically sound. All the 27 checks it do are all in place. That's great. Doesn't mean it's definitely going to work out. Okay, but it's a high probability trade. That's the alert. But say price doesn't turn around, and you've entered the one-click entry, you're in a losing trade, whereas someone that kept dynamic entry might be in a winning trade. That being said, however, the one-click entry, just ask Chris Corrin, is very good on a lot of setups if you know what you're doing, because you'll get often even better entries, and you can often get in a one-click entry trade, take 10 to 15 pips, and the person waiting for the dynamic entry still hasn't even entered their trade yet. So I'm just trying to give you all the dynamics of using this, because again, if you use the one-click entry set to true, then you're really relying on your own skills a lot more. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, 15-minute trend, very similar, basically the same settings. Okay, I've got a little bit same stop, a little bit bigger target, one-click entry false. I've still got the candle close set to 5. I think 15 on this, you can do it, but honestly, I think the 5 is the best on this one. All right, but you can experiment with whatever you want. You can even do a 1-minute candle close on this one. That's fine. Okay, but I would stick with the 5. Again, I would stick with all default settings on this. One-click entry also to false. 75 pip target, 30 pip stop. All right, let's get on to the strategy. Okay, let's start with the 5-minute trend. Okay, I think the 5-minute trend is the bread and butter trade. All right, this is a really good trade. You want to take most of them, I think, and you want to let the dynamic entry, I think, handle it myself. The key with trends is this. One phrase. If it's long, the phrase is higher highs and higher lows. If the trade is short, the phrase is lower highs and lower lows. All right, and to give you some examples, I don't think I need to necessarily give you tons of examples, but here's an example. Here's a Euro Aussie dollar trade making higher highs and higher lows. As long as you're making higher highs and higher lows, the green boxes work beautifully. As soon as you fail, here's a little failure, boom, it breaks. Lower low now. Now look, now that we've got the lower low, it becomes resistance. Okay, so higher highs and higher lows, lower lows and lower highs give our green line a lot of power. This is what you want to see. If you get an alert on a trade, you want to make sure, and it's a long, say it's a 5 minute long, we'll pretend this is a 5 minute chart, okay? We'll just pretend. All right, if you get a 5 minute alert and if you're right here, that's great. I mean, forget the hindsight business. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen next. So if you get a 5 minute alert, so we'll call it a short 5 minute trend. Say you get an alert for a short 5 minute trend. You want to check your 5 minute chart. So the 5 minute trend is your key. Look at the 5 minute chart. You don't have an orange and white background. That's okay, Tess. Don't worry. I'm just showing you what higher highs and higher lows look like, okay? Yours should look like this. Yours should look like this. But you don't need to have any special chart to see higher highs and higher lows. So that's what I'm trying to show you. You have everything here. You don't have the orange background. You've got the green lines, and then the only difference is on this line right here. I need to make this over here so I can get it to it. Okay. All right, so obviously these aren't the same charts because this is off the orange grids and this isn't. But basically the black line on here, the L7, is the orange line here. So everything's the same on your charts. You don't have the band shades, okay? If you had the Pro, you would be able to see the white band shades as well, okay? But you don't need those, all right? You don't need those for what I'm showing you. All you need is to see the lines really and the price action on the charts. All right, so if you have, let's look at the orange chart though, okay? If you get an alert for a short 5 minute trend, then this is what you want to look at, the 5 minute chart, and you want to see the price action showing you lower lows, and you want to be pulled up to the green line after a fresh lower low. If, for example, you look at your 5 minute chart and you see something like this, you could think about this, but I would hesitate, right? That's tricky. If you're like this, you don't do it. You may get an alert right here because see, it checks for the direction and the slope of this line here. So if this line is down, but look, you didn't get the lower low, and say you've got the alert and you haven't taken the alert yet, you can wait on the alerts. You don't have to hit yes right away. You can wait and watch it. Now, say you get the alert here, you've watched it. I would just wait. I would probably reject this alert because we didn't get the lower low, and now we've made a higher high. That's a sign to not take the 5 minute trend. All right, so what I'm trying to show you here is you need to make sure if you're taking a trend trade, you got to go to the time frame of that trend. If it's a 5 minute or 15 minute trend, go to the 15 minute chart or the 5 minute chart of that currency pair based on whatever the alert is. Make sure if it's a short, you've just come off a fresh low. And make sure if it's a long, you've just come off a fresh high. That is the basic key, all right, to trading these trends. It's checking the 1, the 5, the 15, the 30, the 60, and the 240 for its level. So it's doing multiple checks. You can, if you want, move out I wouldn't worry about the 5 and 15, or say it's a 5 minute trend. I wouldn't worry about as much about the 15. I would look at the hour. If you want some more confirmation, this is a little bonus if you want to get a little more experience. This is an experience tip. You don't need this right off the bat, okay? But just, asterisk this in your mind or whatever. If you want on the 5 minute trends to also check the 60 minute trends, and for the 15 also check the 240 minute trends and check for higher highs on that, that's fine. If you're looking really rangy on those and you're near the top or the bottom of the range, which your trade would butt into the top or the bottom of the range, then don't do it. Okay, that's an extra check you can make. All right, that's a little bit on the 5 minute trends. Really not much about the 5 minute trends. Just make sure you're getting those higher highs and higher lows. That's the only real check you have to do because everything else has been done for you. All right, so any questions about this trend, because I want to show you something else. I've showed the VTA Pro traders how to set this up with a 2-chart system because here's the situation. If you get an alert on Eurodollar and you've only got this Eurodollar chart set up and you'll get the alert, the problem is when you get the alert, say you're looking at a 15-minute chart and you get a 5-minute alert. If you've got an alert, really the VTA is not going to let you change the time frame of this chart. So you're going to need a second chart open. All right. So here's what you can do. I don't want to go through this process later. I'll make a separate video. You might want to put your Indy on one chart and your EA, your VTA, on a second chart. Okay, and look at them both. You'd have a euro dollar up here without any lines or anything on it, but it would just have the VTA signal. It would tell you your news and all that kind of stuff, and it would be responsible for providing the alerts. Then you have a second chart with just your lines on it. And then what that would do is that'll be the chart that you change your time frames. If you're on the 5-minute chart and you get a 15-minute trend alert, you're going to want to go to this other chart and change that to a 15-minute to check those time frames. So really the 5-minute trend and the 15-minute trend are the same. No difference. You're going to check for those higher highs and higher lows if it's a long setup, or the lower lows and lower highs if it's a short setup for the respective time frame chart as the trade.